Hi everyone, Rahul here. In my previous video, I have explained you about the order by clause. In this video, we will discuss about the group by and having clause in SQL. So what is group by? Oracle group by clause is used in select statement to collect data across multiple records and group the results by one or more columns. So let's look at the syntax of group by. Select then column 1, column 2 and then aggregate function from table name, where conditions and then group by column 1 and column 2, and we can use an order by as well. So aggregate function is it can be a function such as sum, count, min, max or average function. So let's look at the group by example. So let's suppose we have one employee table and the data you can see on the screen. Let's suppose our requirement is to count the number of rows based on the department ID. So what query we will write? We will use select then department ID and then an aggregate function from table name. We will do a group by on the required columns. The department ID is here. Group by department ID. If we are doing a group by on any column here in our example, it's department ID. Then this is a this must be in the select query. So department ID in the select statement, and then we can do any aggregate function like count, max, min. So I will discuss the about the aggregate functions in my future video, but here we can focus on the group by clause. So whatever column we will give in the group by, we must give it in the select statement. So you can see that if I execute this query, it will give me a count of each and every row based on the department ID. So you can see that we are having a two rows for the department ID 1, that's why the count is 2. We are having a three rows for department ID 2, that's why the count for department ID is 2. We are having a two rows for department ID 3, so count is 2 for department ID 3, and we are having a three rows for department ID 4, that's why the count is 3 for department ID 4. In the similar way, we can, as I said, we can use any aggregate function like count. So here we are using a sum aggregate function and we are calculating the salary based on the department ID. So this query will give you the salary on the basis of department ID. So department ID 1 is having this salary, 2 is having this salary. So we can execute this query for that. And we can do a group by on any column. As I said that we now in this query we are doing a group by on the gender column. So gender column must be in the select query. So select gender, then sum, and then from employee. So this is the output here. So let's see. So let's see these in the database. So here is our employee table. We are having these many rows. Some rows are having department ID 1, some are 2, 3, and 4, and based on the gender as well. So if we execute this query, select department ID count star, it will give us those rows. It will give us the count based on the department. We can use the sum as well. So this query will return us the salary per department, and we can give a alias as well like sum underscore salary. So this sum underscore sal will be displayed here if we will execute this query. So just see that. And same we can do a group by on gender column as well. Group by on multiple columns. So in my previous video, as I explained you, we can do a order by on multiple columns. In the similar way, we can do a group by on multiple columns as well. Same example, same employee table. Let's suppose here we have to do a group by just not only on the depth ID column, we are doing a group by on depth ID and gender. So this query will give us the count based on the group by of department ID and gender. So just focus on the first result set. Department ID 1, gender M, count 2. Why? Just focus on these first two rows. We are having two rows for department ID 1 and both are males. We are having three rows for department ID 2. Out of these three, two are females, one is male. So you can see here, one is male and two are females. We are having two rows of department ID 3 and both are males. That's why department ID 3 and male having a count of 2. In a similar way, we can use some aggregate function as well. So just run these queries in the database. Same example, we are doing group by on the depth ID and gender. and same we can use a sum. So what this query will give us, it will give us the salary not just based on the department ID but based on the department ID and gender. And as I said, whatever columns we use in group by, these columns we must use in the select statement. And any other column if I use, it will give me an error. So I can show you select star from employee, right? So let's suppose emp ID is the column. Let's suppose if I use emp underscore ID here, it will give me an error, not a group by expression. So we have to use all the columns whatever are present in the group by. So here in currently I am giving an employee ID. This is an extra column. Let's suppose I'm not using gender. So let's think about it. What will be the output? Here it's not throwing error. Just think about it. We have used depth ID and gender. We are doing a group by. So you must be thinking why it's not giving me error. It will not give me an error because we are doing a group by on depth ID and gender. It's just like we are not selecting it. Salary you can say, and you can say this is the salary and this is the department ID. But we are not using a gender column in the select. It doesn't mean that it's not grouping on the both the columns. It's grouped on both these columns. It's just like we are not using in the select. So if we will use the gender in the select, it will display it. You can see the numbers are same if I use a gender or not. Now run it without gender column. So just focus on the sum. It's same. It's same. Correct? It's just that we have not used the gender in the select statement, but in the group by we are using both. So I hope it's clear now. Now let's come to the next topic, having. In Oracle, having clause is used with a group by clause to restrict the groups of returned rows where condition is true. So having is always used with a group by clause. So you can have a look at the syntax. Each and every syntax is same. You can see that select star from table name where and then group by. Just we have to use having keyword and then having condition. So just look at the example, same table. So so far we have seen we are doing a group by on the depth ID column and calculating in the count. Let's suppose we have a business requirement that we just want rows which is having a count greater than 2. So in that scenario, we have to use having. Select depth ID count star from employee group by depth ID having count star greater than 2. So it will exclude those rows which is having count 2 and it will give us only those rows which is having a count greater than 2. So that's why only department ID 2 and 4 are coming and it has excluded department ID 1 and 3. Correct? So this is about having, and you have to remember this order. First, we have to write where and then group by and then having. This is very important. So this query, you can remember it. Select star from table name, then where, then group by and then having. So in this video, we have discussed about group by and having clause. In case you have any queries, you can comment me and stay tuned for future videos. If you have learned something new, please like this video. Happy learning, guys. Thank you.